Have you ever noticed how silence changes the way you think when no one is around to watch you, judge you, or expect something from you? When a man lives alone long enough, that silence stops being empty. It becomes loud. It forces you to hear thoughts you used to drown out with noise, people, and distractions. At first it feels uncomfortable, almost threatening, because without anyone else around there is nowhere to hide from yourself. But this is where something rare begins to happen. When you are alone, your nervous system slowly comes down from constant alert. No pressure to impress, no need to perform, no role to play. Your mind starts to slow, and in that slowing, clarity starts to appear. You begin to see how much of your past behavior was driven by approval, how many choices were not really choices but reactions. Reactions to fear of being alone, fear of not being enough, fear of being forgotten. Living alone long enough breaks that cycle. Your brain rewires itself. Research shows that solitude increases self-awareness and pattern recognition. You start noticing emotional habits instead of being controlled by them. You stop chasing stimulation and start valuing stability. Attention no longer feels like oxygen. Peace does. Control over your time does. Progress does. And as this shift happens, the way you see women changes at the deepest level. You realize something uncomfortable but freeing. Much of what you once called attraction was actually anxiety. Much of what you called love was actually fear of loss. Alone, those illusions fade. Without constant emotional input, your mind separates desire from dependency. You no longer confuse intensity with intimacy. You no longer mistake validation for connection. Women stop being mirrors for your self-worth. They stop being goals. They stop being proof that you matter. This does not make you colder. It makes you clearer. And clarity is dangerous in the best way possible. Because a clear man cannot be easily manipulated by attention or rejection. He no longer reacts instantly. He observes. He feels, but he does not collapse under emotion. He begins to see people as they are, not as solutions to his loneliness. Here is the emotional reward for staying with this message. When you understand this shift, you stop fighting yourself. You stop forcing attraction. You stop feeling behind in life. You realize that solitude was not punishment. It was training. It was shaping your nervous system to handle depth, responsibility, and truth. The silence teaches you patience. Patience sharpens perception. Perception builds power. And power changes how you move through the world, especially how you relate to women, not with fear, not with desperation, but with calm presence. If you stay until the end, you will understand why this transformation is not about avoiding women, rejecting love, or becoming distant. It is about becoming grounded enough to choose wisely. It is about becoming the kind of man who does not need noise to feel alive, and does not need approval to feel worthy. That is where real confidence is born. And once that happens, nothing looks the same again. Once that clarity settles in, something else begins to shift, quieter but far more powerful. Desire no longer controls you the way it once did. It does not disappear, but it changes shape. When you are alone long enough, your mind stops looking for quick emotional relief and starts searching for meaning. This is not weakness leaving you. This is strength forming. Psychology shows that when gratification is delayed, the brain strengthens its ability to think long-term. You become less reactive, more deliberate. You stop moving on impulse and start moving with intention. Attraction becomes calmer, slower, deeper. You no longer feel pulled toward every spark of attention. Beauty still registers, but it no longer hijacks your judgment. Charm still exists, but it no longer disarms you. You begin to notice what used to be invisible. How someone handles frustration, how they speak about responsibility, how they respect boundaries when there is nothing to gain. These details start to matter more than excitement, more than chemistry, more than fantasy. Living alone long enough teaches you to sit with desire instead of obeying it. And this rewires your relationship with women at the core. You stop projecting your unmet needs onto them. You stop expecting them to soothe your anxiety or validate your worth. You see clearly that attraction without alignment leads to inner chaos. So your mind starts asking better questions, not, do I want her right now? But, does this fit the life I am building? That single question changes everything. This is where discernment replaces desperation. Discernment is not cold. It is not judgment. It is respect for your future. You begin to recognize patterns instead of moments, consistency instead of promises, emotional stability instead of intensity. You understand that strong attraction can exist alongside incompatibility, and you no longer confuse the two. This awareness gives you control without forcing it. You do not need to reject anyone. You simply stop abandoning yourself. The most powerful shift happens internally. You stop seeing women as something to win or lose. They become human again, complex, individual, separate from your identity. This removes pressure from every interaction. There is no rush, no performance, no hidden agenda. You listen more. You observe more. You allow space for reality to reveal itself over time. And time becomes your ally instead of your enemy. This is why solitude creates grounded men. Not because they isolate, but because they stop chasing emotional shortcuts. They build patience. And patience sharpens judgment. Judgment creates freedom. Freedom allows choice. And choice is where real power lives. You are no longer pulled forward by loneliness. You are guided forward by intention. As this mindset settles in, you begin to feel something rare. Calm attraction, quiet confidence, the absence of inner conflict. You do not feel behind. You do not feel pressured. You feel steady. And that steadiness changes how others experience you. Not because you try harder, but because you need less. This is not about becoming distant or uninterested. It is about becoming selective without guilt. It is about honoring your energy, your time, and your future. When desire is no longer in control, you are free to choose connection from clarity instead of craving. And when that happens, your entire emotional landscape shifts. What once felt urgent now feels optional. What once felt powerful now feels temporary. What remains is discernment, and discernment is the beginning of wisdom. As discernment takes root, another transformation unfolds, one that reshapes your emotional core. You become emotionally independent, not detached, not numb, independent. This is where real power is built. Living alone long enough teaches you something most people never master: how to regulate your emotions without handing that responsibility to someone else. There is no one to rescue you from boredom, no one to absorb your stress, no one to stabilize your mood. So you learn to do it yourself, at FEF. This feels heavy, then it becomes empowering. Neuroscience shows that when you learn to self-soothe, your emotional resilience increases. You stop swinging between highs and lows. You stop outsourcing your peace. Your nervous system becomes stable, grounded, calm. And this stability changes everything about how you relate to women. You no longer approach connection from a place of emotional hunger. You are not looking for someone to fill a gap or fix a feeling. You are not chasing relief, you are sharing strength. This removes pressure instantly. Conversations feel lighter. Silences feel safer. You do not panic when energy shifts. You do not collapse when attention fades. Because your sense of self is no longer tied to how someone responds to you. This is where confidence becomes real. Not loud confidence, not forced confidence, quiet confidence. The kind that does not announce itself, the kind that does not seek approval, the kind that does not fear rejection. You know you can sit alone with your thoughts and still feel whole. That knowledge changes how you carry yourself. Your presence slows. Your words become measured. Your reactions soften. You are no longer emotionally predictable because you are no longer emotionally dependent. Women feel this immediately. Not because you say anything different, but because you need nothing from them. And when need disappears, respect appears. You listen without trying to impress. You engage without trying to control. You allow space without fear of loss. This creates a sense of safety that cannot be faked. Safety built from self-mastery, not strategy. Emotional independence also sharpens your boundaries. You become aware of what drains you and what fuels you. Drama feels loud, chaos feels heavy, peace feels valuable. And once you taste peace, you protect it. You do not argue to win. You do not tolerate disrespect to avoid loneliness. You do not stay where your nervous system feels under attack. This is not avoidance. This is self-respect. Living alone long enough removes the fear of walking away. Not because you reject connection, but because you trust yourself without it. You know solitude will not break you. That knowledge gives you leverage over your own life. You choose connection because you want to, not because you are afraid not to. This is where many men change permanently. They stop confusing intensity with intimacy. They stop chasing emotional spikes. They start valuing emotional consistency. They understand that love is not supposed to destabilize you, it is supposed to ground you. And if something constantly pulls you out of yourself, it is not connection. It is attachment. When emotional independence settles in, you stop performing. You stop proving. You stop over-explaining. You become present. And presence is magnetic. Not because it demands attention, but because it does not need it. This is the quiet strength of a man who has faced himself in silence and survived. He does not rush. He does not beg. He does not cling. He stands firm. And from that firmness, every connection becomes cleaner, calmer, and more real. This is not distance from women. This is mastery over yourself. And self-mastery is the foundation of every meaningful bond you will ever build. As self-mastery settles into your identity, illusion begins to fall away, not violently, not dramatically, quietly. The stories you once believed about women, about relationships, about yourself, start losing their grip. You no longer see through fantasy. You see through truth. And truth, while uncomfortable at first, is deeply liberating. Living alone long enough teaches you how much of your perception was shaped by projection. You stop placing expectations on women that were never theirs to carry. Psychology calls this mature perception. It is the moment you stop seeing people as answers to your internal problems and start seeing them as complete human beings, with fears, with contradictions, with their own wounds and boundaries. This shift changes everything. Respect replaces illusion, not admiration that blinds you, not resentment that hardens you. Respect grounded in reality. You no longer idolize. You no longer demonize. You understand that attraction does not make someone perfect, and disappointment does not make them evil. This balance creates emotional intelligence. You stop personalizing behavior that has nothing to do with you. You stop internalizing rejection as failure. You stop chasing approval from people who are not aligned with your values. And in doing so, you reclaim your emotional authority. This is where many men feel a deep sense of relief for the first time. You realize how exhausting it was to constantly interpret, impress, and adjust. Alone, you learn to stand still. Now in connection, you remain centered. You do not rush intimacy. You allow people to reveal themselves over time. Words matter less than patterns. Promises matter less than behavior. Consistency becomes attractive. Emotional responsibility becomes non-negotiable. Respect also changes how you communicate. You speak with honesty, not strategy. You express interest without attachment. You set boundaries without anger. You walk away without bitterness. There is no need to punish or prove anything. When something does not feel right, you trust that signal. You do not override it to avoid being alone. You already know you can handle solitude. That knowledge is your shield. Living alone long enough also exposes cultural lies. That a man must always pursue. That his value is measured by attention. That being chosen defines worth. Those narratives dissolve when you build a life that feels solid on your own. You stop seeing women as judges of your success. They become participants, not deciders. Equals, not rewards. This respect creates a new kind of attraction, one built on calm curiosity instead of emotional urgency. You are interested but not invested prematurely, open but OT overexposed. This balance allows real connection to form without pressure. You give space, you allow autonomy, and in that space, authenticity can breathe. You also gain the courage to confront yourself. You acknowledge your own patterns, your avoidance, your insecurities, your past mistakes. You do not hide behind blame. You do not mask growth with arrogance. You own your evolution quietly. That ownership deepens your integrity, and integrity changes how people feel around you. When illusion is gone, you are no longer chasing a feeling, you are building alignment. You choose clarity over chaos, peace over intensity, depth over drama. This does not make life smaller, it makes it cleaner, stronger, more honest. Respect, once rooted, reshapes every interaction. You are no longer trying to be impressive, you are trying to be real. And real connection only happens when illusion dies. This is the turning point, where you stop repeating emotional cycles and start creating something new, something grounded, something lasting, something that begins with seeing clearly and continues with choosing wisely. With respect anchored in reality, your standards begin to rise without effort. Not out of pride, not out of entitlement, out of awareness. Living alone long enough teaches you what peace actually feels like. Quiet mornings, order in your space, control over your time, emotional stability that does not depend on anyone else's mood. Once you experience this, your nervous system memorizes it, and it will not easily let it go. Psychology shows that people protect what they had to build slowly. Your peace was built slowly, through discipline, through restraint, through facing discomfort instead of escaping it. So now, you guard it naturally. You stop entertaining what disturbs your inner balance, not because you think you are better, but because you know what chaos costs. You know how long it took to become calm, and you refuse to unlearn that lesson. Your standards stop being about appearance or excitement. They shift toward emotional maturity, accountability, self-respect, how someone responds under pressure, how they communicate when things are not perfect. You begin to value stability over intensity, because you understand that constant intensity is not passion, it is instability. You are no longer impressed by attention. You are impressed by consistency, by kindness that does not disappear when it is inconvenient. This shift confuses some people. They mistake your calm for distance, your selectiveness for arrogance. But you know the truth. You are not closed, you are clear. You are not demanding, you are intentional. You are no longer trying to build a future with someone who has not built themselves. This is not judgment, this is alignment. Living alone long enough teaches you another hard truth. Attraction without shared values becomes suffering over time, so you stop rushing connection. You stop ignoring red flags to preserve fantasy. You, allow silence to reveal character. You let time expose truth. And you trust your intuition, because it has been sharpened by solitude. Women are no longer auditions. They're conversations. Mutual, balanced. You are not there to convince, you are there to observe, to engage honestly, to see if energy matches effort, if words match actions, if respect flows both ways. This changes the dynamic completely. There is no chase, no power struggle, just presence. Your standards also include how you are treated. You no longer excuse disrespect because of attraction. You no longer negotiate your boundaries to avoid being alone. You already know you can be alone. That knowledge gives you leverage over your own decisions. You choose connection because it enhances your life, not because it rescues you from emptiness. This is where strength becomes quiet and unshakable. You do not announce your standards, you live them. You walk away without explanation when something consistently drains you. You stay grounded when something aligns. You are patient enough to wait and strong enough to leave. This balance creates dignity. Raising standards is not about perfection, it is about compatibility, emotional rhythm, shared direction. You understand that love is not meant to destabilize your life. It is meant to integrate into it, support it, strengthen it. Anything that demands you abandon yourself is not love, it is attachment disguised as passion. Once this mindset is locked in, there is no going back. You cannot unsee clarity. You cannot pretend chaos feels normal. You move slower, but you move right, and every decision you make from this place protects the future version of you. The man who worked through silence, the man who chose growth over comfort, the man who learned that standards are not walls, they are filters, and filters are what keep your life clean, focused, and aligned with who you have become. When you have lived alone long enough to build standards, peace, and self-trust, something rare becomes possible. You can finally choose love without fear. Not love driven by urgency, not love shaped by loneliness. Love chosen freely from strength, not lack. This is the highest level of emotional maturity a man can reach, and very few ever do. You no longer feel rushed by time. You no longer feel pressured by society's expectations. You no longer measure your worth by who is beside you. You have already proven to yourself that you can stand alone. That truth settles deep into your nervous system. And from that place, connection becomes a choice, not a necessity. Psychology calls this internal security. When your sense of safety comes from within, your relationships change completely. You are not trying to extract happiness from someone else. You are offering presence. You are offering stability. You are offering honesty. There is no hidden agenda, no emotional debt being collected later. You show up as you are, not as who you think you need to be. Loved. This is when love becomes calm instead of chaotic. There is attraction but no desperation. There is closeness but no loss of self. There is intimacy but no fear of abandonment. You do not cling. You do not test. You do not manipulate. You trust because you know even if something ends, you will still be standing. Women sense this immediately, not because you claim confidence, but because your energy is grounded. You are not performing. You are not chasing. You are not proving. You are present. And presence is rare. Presence feels safe. Presence feels honest. Presence allows connection to grow naturally without force. You also understand something deeply now. Love is not meant to complete you. It is meant to walk beside you, to add to a life that already has direction. You no longer sacrifice your values to keep someone close. You no longer shrink to maintain harmony. You express yourself clearly, respectfully, and without fear of being misunderstood. And if someone cannot meet you there, you let them go with peace. This is not emotional coldness. This is emotional freedom. You are open, but not unprotected. Vulnerable, but not dependent. You allow love to grow, but you do not abandon yourself in the process. That balance is the result of everything you endured in solitude, every quiet night, every uncomfortable realization, every moment you chose growth over escape. Living alone long enough did not isolate you, it refined you, it stripped away false needs and exposed real values. It taught you patience. It taught you discipline. It taught you how to listen to your inner voice instead of external noise. And now, when you choose someone, it is intentional, it is clean, it is grounded. You are no longer afraid of being alone. And because of that, you are finally capable of deep connection. You are not trying to fill space. You are sharing it. You are not trying to be saved. You are offering partnership. Equal, respectful, conscious. This is the man who sees women clearly, not as answers, not as threats, not as validation, but as human beings he may walk with if alignment exists. And if it does not, he continues forward without bitterness, without regret, without fear. This is the quiet power that comes from solitude mastered, the power to choose love freely. And that freedom is the foundation of every meaningful relationship you will ever have. And when that freedom becomes part of who you are, your entire orientation toward life shifts. You stop waiting for permission to live fully. You stop delaying growth for the comfort of familiarity. You understand that solitude was never the destination. It was the forge. It was the place where you were stripped down to what was essential, where distractions fell away and truth stood alone with you. This is where responsibility locks in. Not the heavy kind that feels like burden, but the empowering kind that feels like ownership. You take responsibility for your emotional state, your choices, your direction. You no longer outsource happiness or blame disappointment. You recognize that the quality of your life is shaped by the standards you keep and the courage you practice daily. That realization is sobering, but it is also freeing. Your relationship with women now exists inside this larger frame. They are not the center of your life, and they are not outside of it either. They are part of it. When alignment exists, you no longer revolve around attraction, and you no longer resist it. You integrate it, calmly, intentionally. You allow desire to exist without letting it drive the wheel. You allow connection to grow without forcing outcomes. This balance creates dignity in everything you do. You begin to move differently. You speak with clarity. You listen without defensiveness. You respond instead of reacting. You are not afraid of depth because you have explored your own. You are not threatened by independence because you have built yours. This makes you steady in a world that constantly pulls people off balance. There is also a quiet humility that develops. You realize how much there is still to learn, how much growth remains. Solitude did not make you superior. It made you honest. Honest about your limits, honest about your needs, honest about your values. That honesty keeps you grounded. It keeps you real. You stop romanticizing struggle and stop fearing peace. You understand that excitement fades, but character remains. You choose routines that support your nervous system. You choose environments that respect your focus. You choose relationships that reflect your growth instead of challenging your stability. This is not settling. This is refinement. And when love enters your life from this place, it feels different. It does not consume you, it supports you, it does not distract you from your path. It walks alongside it. You are able to give without losing yourself, to care without clinging, to commit without abandoning your inner world. This is the kind of love that lasts, because it is built on two whole people, not two open wounds. Even if love does not enter immediately, you do not feel lacking. You continue building, learning, expanding. You understand that your worth is not paused while you wait. Every day becomes meaningful because it is chosen, not endured. You live deliberately, and deliberate living attracts deliberate connection. This is the final integration. Solitude taught you how to stand. Discernment taught you how to choose. Emotional independence taught you how to stay grounded. Respect taught you how to see clearly. Standards taught you how to protect your future. And freedom taught you how to love without fear. You are no longer reacting to life, you are shaping it. Quietly, intentionally, powerfully. And from this place, whatever you build next will be rooted in truth, not urgency. Strength, not insecurity. Choice, not pressure. This is what happens when a man lives alone long enough and listens instead of escaping. He does not lose his ability to connect. He earns it.